Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Gardening with Creations by DX & Co. Today I want to show you how to make your own DIY compost barrel that'll spin freely. So you guys see all those very expensive compost barrels out there, cost upwards of $80 to $200 depending on the one you get. So I'm going to show you how to do a DIY version, a very inexpensive DIY compost barrel today that'll spin freely so you don't have to get in there and mix it up by hand. So let me show you what that looks like, guys, and we'll get started. This is the DIY compost barrel that I'm recommending that you guys try. So as you can see, it's just a bucket with some holes drilled in it and spins freely so you don't have to touch the compost to mix it up. So I'm going to show you step by step how I make this today. So if you want to see more on that, and stay tuned. Okay guys, so you want to start with your black bucket. I went with black because obviously it attracts heat. Plus the black buckets, the yellow lids that I'm sure you've seen out there a lot recently, they have a more secure lid style, so it'll help when you're spinning your bucket around. You won't have as much, the weight on top won't necessarily make the lid pop up. You can always secure it with something else later if you want. But this is the method I've chosen to go with for a more secure lid. This is the 27 gallon that I'm utilizing. They have bigger sizes, they have smaller sizes. This was the smallest one that I could find that'll fit in my greenhouse at the location that I was at. So just wanted to show you guys what I'm doing next. I took some I'm taking some inch and a half PVC pipe that I had from some other projects. And I'm going to poke a hole right here in the side on both sides and run this straight through. So for starters, I'm going to trace a circle, drill a hole, and then I'm going to use a saw to cut it. You could probably cut this very easily with a utility knife, something like that. It's okay if it's a little bit sloppy. The reason for that is it's okay if you get air in there, oxygen, so on and so forth. For that oxygen exchange, it's really good for your compost pile. So the reason I'm going with PVC as opposed to like wood or something like that is that coating on the outside of PVC makes it so it doesn't stick and things should slide off there pretty easily for my compost bin. And I like that it's round and going with a thicker one so that way it'll hold the weight of this a lot better. So there you have it, guys. Let me get this traced out and these holes cut and I'll show you that afterwards. Okay, so there you see where I'm going, just under the handle. I want to still be able to grab the handle, but I want it higher up so that way when I go to spin this, it'll spin nice and easily. So I'm going towards the top rather than the center, so I have a lot more volume room for my compost to be underneath that line. So I'm going to go ahead and get this. I'm going to drill a hole with my regular drill, and then I'm going to take my saw and cut around that circle. So you can use any type of drill bit that you may have to get the hole started. I recommend doing that even if you're going to take a knife to carve out that, but I'm using just a spade bit that I'm going to poke a hole right in. You usually want to go right at the side on that, so where your line is, so that way you can easily get your blade in there to cut the rest of it around. So I'm going to go ahead and get this drilled and cut out, and I'll show you what that looks like after, and then we'll do the other side. So we've got a very rough cut from the saw. Actually really hard to get the saw in there because of the height and these grooves here. So I recommend taking your time and being very cautious with that. And what I'm going to do is probably take a razor knife and clean up some of these edges here. It's not sharp or anything like that, but plastic, as you know, does not degrade. So I want to clean it up, make sure it doesn't fall into my compost pile. So and test it out here, and there we go. We've got a perfect fit. So I'm going to go ahead and then flip this over, do the other side, and we'll see what that looks like. There you have it, guys. We've got our other side cut. The pipe's going through there, and so let me lift this up here, show you. All right, I'm working inside the house. It's cold outside. So here we have it. Now we've got our pipe. Plenty of room inside there for our compost bin. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to drill a bunch of holes because I want the oxygen to be able to get into the pile itself. I also want heat to be able to escape from here as well, because part of the reason I'm doing a compost bin inside the greenhouse is to create heat. So I'll show you some of those other videos on the compost bins that I have thus far. But I'm going to go ahead and poke a bunch of 1/2-inch holes all around here. I think I'm going to go with a 1/2-inch blade and poke those holes, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay guys, so I have drilled a set of holes on this side. As you can see, I just kind of went sporadic with them. I'm looking to achieve oxygen exchange as well as allow the heat to escape out in the greenhouse. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up doing that all around. I mentioned before that I was looking to utilize 1/2-inch drill bit with that. I actually ended up thinking 1/2-inch was too big. So these are actually 1/4-inch holes, in case you're wondering. So 1/2-inch I thought would allow too much soil to fall out. So again, I went with a 1/4-inch drill bit on that. Guys, there's a quick shot of the inside. We've got our hole cut out. We've got a bunch of air holes for oxygen exchange as well as heat exchange drilled in it. So nothing fancy. I wasn't going for you know, aesthetics or anything like that. Going for functionality. So just want to give you guys a look. I could put drainage holes in the bottom, you know, because I will be putting water in this because it is a compost pile. But I'm choosing not to because I don't want to lose soil throughout the bottom as it's just sitting there. So I'm choosing not to, but that's why I went about a 1/2-inch up, as you can see, on all my holes all the way around. So that way water overflow could get out of there as needed. So alright guys, bear with me, we'll move on to the next steps. Okay guys, so for the next step here, we're going to be building our platform for this wood to rest on. Don't mind the elbow, I just haven't cut it off yet. Excuse me, we're going to be building a platform out of wood for this to rest on. Now, what we need to know is our distance from here to this corner, because as this swings, we want to clear that distance. So that's going to be our highest point, and I'm going to measure it on both sides just to make sure that it's equal. And then what I'm going to do from there is add about 2 inches to give myself some clearance, because I want this bucket to freely swing all the way around. And let me give you an example of what we're looking to achieve here. So as you can see here, it's completely supported, and I can rock this bucket. It's kind of hard to do while holding the camera, but I can rock this bucket and show you. And I'll show you guys, I'm sure you saw that in the intro, and I'll show you again when we finish this video once it's finished completely turning it around. So that's how we're going to measure the distance for the height of our wood, and is going to be our corners to make sure we get the right distance here. So yours may be a little bit different depending on your hole placement that you did. So make sure you measure it and don't just take it off of my measurement. Plus, I don't know how large of a tub you bought. So that's how I know I'm going to get the appropriate distance. And then, like I said, I'm going to add a couple inches for clearance. I think I'm going to go with 3 inches for an additional clearance. But again, I want this to fit in my greenhouse. So I'm looking not to bring it too high off the ground. Just enough so that it freely spins. I will be, like I said, cutting this piece off. Or I may save it just as an extra kind of overhang. This is a scrap piece that I had, so I believe in recycling everything I have, and so I can always take the saw and cut it off right here, which I may do, but use what you have, guys. This is 1.5 PVC again, and then you can see that it holds the weight of the bucket just fine. I think it'll hold the weight of the compost as well with no problems. If you're worried about that, you can always go bigger on your PVC pipe. They do make larger sizes, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch if you really want to go crazy. So really, I would depend on the size of your bucket and the amount of weight that you're expecting to put in there. So bear with me, guys. Hey guys, I've taken some 2x4s that I pulled off some old pallets. If you have 2x4s laying around, you can do it with that. I went ahead and made these pieces here to be a little bit longer than the size of my bucket. I want just by a couple inches or so. I'm going to actually add a couple more inches by tagging that board on the outside of this board. So this will end up being like this. And what I'm doing now is making a box frame that I can set my my tub in the middle of. So I'm going to also then I'm going to build up from here, kind of a triangle shape, and I'll show you that step as well on how we do that, so that I have something to rest the PVC pipe on. So again, I want a couple inches on either side, and then I'm going to build a upwards from here. So this will support it, give it a nice solid base so it doesn't tip over when it's spinning. So I'm going to go ahead and get this screwed in, get this box done, and then I'll show you the next step after I get it cut. Okay guys, here's where it gets a little tricky. So I obviously could try to do a box straight up, straight across. That might be doable, but I want something with a little bit more support. So I'm going to do a angled board this way and an angled board this way, but I want a support board in the center like this. So if you do a standard 45-degree angle, this on your miter saw, this will not leave you room. It'll be 45 and 45. So it won't leave you room to do the board in the middle. So what I've done here is I'll show you guys on the saw here, is the saw actually has a line for my saw, at least at 33 degrees. So I decided to test out the 33-degree angle, and it was perfect. So I can do one board here, and that'll give me the support in the middle. Now the tricky part was, remember, this board here is also part of my height. I told you I measured from the pipe down to the corner, and I wanted to give it 2 or 3 inches. So this board happens to be finished out at 3.5 inches. So I measured this, subtracted the 14 inches that I wanted to finish out, and measured this. So the very tip of this board, which will be the top of my center board, equals 14 inches. So it's a little bit of math, guys, and a little bit of effort, but you can do this as well. So when all is said and done, that PVC pipe will be sitting on top of this board with a box frame around it on both sides. So this board itself, now I'm also going to screw that PVC pipe, because that's not the part that I want to turn, the bucket is. I'm going to screw the PVC pipe into the top of this, and I'll show you guys that when we get that far. So let me get these screwed on and get the other side cut, and I'll show you exactly what we're looking at. Hey guys, so that's what I was talking about. Obviously you can see I did not get my miters perfect on that side or on that side, but that's okay. The support, it's nice and strong. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like I said, it's just a DIY. If you're a perfectionist, please take the time to do it the way you would feel needs to be done. But for me, I just tag these in with screws that are deck screws, so they're made for all weather, all purpose. And so that's it, guys. That's my frame that I'm going to be resting the barrel on, or the bucket, compost bucket on. So I'm going to bring that out here, set it on here, show you guys how it works. Before I tack this in here, I wanted to show you exactly what I got. I'm going to, like I said before, I'm going to tack a screw directly into there and into here, because it's not the PVC that I need to turn, it's the bucket. So you can see it just rocking there, and that's what we're hoping for, so that it'll free spin all the way around. And I'll give you an example of that. Let me screw this in here so it doesn't fall off as I'm doing so, and I'll show you what that looks like. There we have it. There is our DIY compost barrel, and I can freely spin it to mix up my compost. So for me, all I have invested at the moment is the screws that I put into it. Obviously the tools I used were a drill and a screw gun and a saw. You don't have to have a saw. Probably do need a miter saw to cut the wood, obviously, but I have free pallet wood, PVC left over from another project, and this particular bucket ended up costing me $8 for the 27-gallon. I know there's sales on them all the time, guys. Obviously this is one that I've had laying around for a while, so this isn't something I recommend as an essential run out and buy, even though I do feel like gardening is essential. This method of composting necessarily isn't at the moment, but definitely something you can utilize in the future. So I'm going to be getting my compost in here, getting it moved out to the greenhouse. You guys taking the time to watch the channel today, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this DIY project. Hopefully you can build something similar, or maybe you guys have better ways of improving this, ideas that you think would be great. Please leave them in the comment below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you guys want to see more content, DIY stuff like this and gardening, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything out. Share this out to your friends and family so they can get started composting. There's a lot of people out there that want to garden that don't know how to start composting. It's a very easy, cheap barrel way of composting if you don't want to have that smelly backyard composting, or you want to heat your greenhouse in a way like I really want to do. So there you have it, guys. Appreciate you watching. As always, stay safe, and I hope you're enjoying your gardens.